Hey, this is Al McGee with YETicket.com. And I saw this film called Film Fest. Man, I thought it was funny and different. In fact, it's a film that I wish I would have done. But I have the director here, Marshall Cook, and the writer and the actor, Matt Cook. He played Logan Clark. And in the film, Logan Clark directed a film that he wanted to be success, but that's in the movie. I ain't gonna tell a lot about the movie, but Marshall, let me talk to you first. Now, like I said earlier, this is the type of movie I wish I would have done because I attended film festivals and I was on the board of 2 film festivals in my life, and I
Yeah.
know how it is. So, how did you come up with this idea to make this film, Marshall?
Well, I went to a lot of festivals. I made a bunch of shorts in my 20s and did the festival circuit mostly with those. And then I went to a couple with some indie features, and then made my return to festivals with the movie that I acted in a few years ago. And it just reminded me how rich this world is for comedy. And so I called up Paul Allen Cope and asked if he would write this with me. And then a year later, we started shooting it.
Oh, that's
Um, but
good.
with your experience, I mean, how did we do? Like, you feel like we're pretty
Oh yeah.
accurate? Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, very accurate, and it's funny, and also I like the characters. And in fact, I really enjoyed Logan Clark. So Matt, tell us a little bit about Logan Clark and his ambitions in this film, Film Fest.
Uh, Logan's a guy who has been, hustling in the industry for a long time, and he finally has this movie that he's made that he's really proud of, and he wants to sell it and have people see it and enjoy it. And the movie is sort of the exploration of how difficult that is. And it's about what his expectations are for himself and for his career and the reality of the situation at hand. So he's got a little bit of humble pie to eat more than one time in the movie.
Yeah, and also Logan had a line in the film, say, paraphrasing, but he stated, "I want everyone to like my film." And what did you mean by that? You wanted everybody to like your film. And even though they might like your film, it might not be a success. So what do you mean by that? Everybody like my film, Logan?
Well, that's sort of what his whole journey kind of centers around that question. And I think at the beginning of the movie, he has one definition of what that means. And what that means to him in the beginning of the movie is people are hiring him to do bigger and better things. And he's getting invited to the parties, and he's, it's the man of the hour. And then over the course of the movie, he has to kind of learn that may not be the healthiest thing to pursue.
Yeah. And Marshall, like you said, you've been to many film festivals and you wrote that line in there, "I want everyone to like my film." Is that usually what filmmakers feel, that they want people to like their film, even though they might like the film might not be a success? And also, Marshall, what is your definition of a success for a film?
Well, yeah, I think the line is I just want people to like it, and I think that a lot of filmmakers will say I don't care what the audience thinks. I'm not trying to please everyone. I'm sure on some level some of them believe that, but I think most people want the audience to like their movie, um, as I do. But I will also say that it's important that I like my own movie to me. And that's been a lesson that I've learned from my first movie to this one. I watched it again recently. I watched Film Fest. I'm like, I like this movie, and that it's like you think that's obvious, but for I think a lot of filmmakers and especially myself, it's not always the case.
Yeah.
I think that's something Logan has to learn as well. Like, do you like your movie? Then who cares? It's out in the world now. Like, it doesn't belong to you anymore. So stop waking up in a cold sweat wondering, about the choices you made on this thing that's no longer yours anymore.
Yeah, also, and this character Montgomery Nash that you created, was he many pieces of different people you met at film festivals? which is played by Lasso.
Will Sasso just nailed that character, I think. And yeah, he's a kind of a Frankenstein of a few, plus, what Will brings to it as well. And he's so good at just that cringe comedy where it's just like a slow train wreck that you just can't stop watching.
Yeah, he was. He had a lot of funny moments in the film. And also, your character Logan Clark, I tell you, that guy is a real first-time filmmaker. So Matt, how did you interpret his role? How did you come up to act the way you did in this film Fest?
I think for me, the thing that I was most excited about to play and act was sort of Logan's idea that he was owed something, and how dangerous that is, and that's something that you can't do that. You just got to count your blessings and control the things you can control. So it was sort of an exercise in leaning into that bad behavior of like throwing little fits and just thinking you deserve more than you get, and all that sort of what I would consider to be bad energy. So the journey was start him there and see if you can get him somewhere better by the end of the movie.
Yeah, I tell you, and I'm sure you met people like that too, right?
Yeah, people that, I think that's the other thing about the movie that I like so much, is that you don't have to just know what it's like to make an independent movie to know these characters, because there's just people like this no matter what industry you work in, that there's people that are like, I should have got that raise, I should have got that office, I should have got whatever, and you go, oh, okay, you still might if you change your attitude a little bit,
or like, why don't you care about my thing as much as me?
Right.
Kind of thing. Hey, I made a movie, why don't you care about it? And people are like, I don't know, I'm living my life, there's also 1,000 other movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also Marshall, Max Ferber, the 15-year-old,
yes,
got his film on iPhone. Man, how did you come up with that idea? Because I've seen a couple of films on iPhones, and I said, well, they did a pretty good job. That budget was really zero.
Yeah. I didn't come up with the world came up with that. I just, created a character based off of what's really going on. There's a generation of people who've only used phones to create content, or from shorts to features, and it can be done. For everyone that you've seen, there's probably a lot more that you'll never see, but it certainly exists.
Now, I don't want to give away a lot in the film, but the film that Logan them took to the film festival called Unknown. What was up with that title? Because I said, wow, I love to see a film like that.
I think it's kind of, it's somewhat of a vague, obnoxiously indie film that's impossible to market. And I think that's one of Logan's many problems that he has. He made a fine film. It's a very competent film, but getting anyone to invest their time or money into a movie called Unknown Unknowns, if they're not, a cinephile or a movie lover, as you might be, is an ask.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And also, Matt, you worked with Deanna Reason over in this film also as Alexandra, as the producer. Man, y'all had some pretty good scenes together. So how was it working with her?
She's phenomenal. Deanna and I know each other from working on a show called Clipped, which we did years ago. And I think the world of her. And it was really, really special to be able to do those big scenes with her. Because you've seen it. She's just phenomenal. And it makes my job so much easier when you have an actor of that caliber just delivering performances like that. And she's so funny too. She's so funny. She's so fast. And then she can turn around and bring a lot of heart and a lot of weight and importance to a scene. And it was really, really fun and special to work with
Yeah,
her
she
on.
seems to be a very special actress, and she brought a lot of fun to the film and a lot of reality to the film
Yeah.
also. And,
Yep.
and again, going back to you, Marshall, what did you see in both these actors to put them in your film? I'm talking about Matt, and I'm talking about Deanna.
Well, I think they're obviously very talented, but mostly I believe everything they say on camera, and they also had a great chemistry. This being a comedy, I mean, there's a lot of great laughs in it, but one of my favorite scenes is actually probably the most dramatic one between the two of them. I mean, to this day, it still like brings a tear to my eye because it's just so real and raw. And
Yeah, I know what scene you're talking about.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they made my job a lot easier too, and they made me look fantastic as a director when I just kind of pointed the camera at them and said, "Do the thing,"
Now, with this type of film, this type of comedy, did you have a hard time getting it financed, and did you have a hard time getting the producers, the people who put up the money, and things like that, to believe in your dream?
Well, we had a unique situation, and some would call this like an angel situation. But I acted in a movie called Hunting Lands with our financer who wanted to do he wanted to do something lighter because he was financing dramas, and he actually ended up being our cinematographer. So he asked me if I had any comedies, and I was working on this. So it was kind of a timing thing and a relationship thing, and just kind of all things mixed together for this cocktail at the right time. So it really wasn't that hard for this particular one, but I've been through every situation with getting movies and TV shows optioned and going through that whole process, and for projects you'll never see that are dead for all time. So
yeah, I know. I talked to many filmmakers. Oh, they tell me about that process.
Yeah.
I said, "Woof, boy."
Yeah,
how
this
do you
one
survive that?
Surprisingly fast as far as these go. From writing it and then shooting it a year later, and then having it come out or being finished with it a year after that. Because indie films can die in post, even. It could be 7 years of post production, still working on VFX or something. So.
Yeah. And now, Matt, you had a scene where it was a podcast scene, and man, I thought that was very funny, and it tells a lot about podcasts. And Matt, tell us about that scene, and then how did you feel about that scene with the podcast scene that you did?
I love that scene. It was pretty great because you've Will Sasso and CJ Vanna in there, and my character just kind of gets added on to it. And that scene especially was those two guys and Marshall just having a lot of fun and pitching ideas of how to make it even more difficult for the characters to be in it, and like, how do we make it more obnoxious? How do we keep it real? It was so fun. And the song was an idea that happened on the day, right, Marshall?
Not the song itself, but the idea of them listening
to the song
long, and it really
was funny.
Yeah.
I think hold on.
Will was like, which should be the longest intro, and everybody's like, yeah. And then they had to fill it in later. It was so funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
Then when you think about it though, like, we didn't have the song at the time, so it was just those two guys just doing all of that, like, just to nothing.
Yeah.
And it was really, really funny.
Yeah, and also, Marshall, there was I like your contribution to PAs and how important they are to the set.
Yeah.
I like that character you created for PAs. So do you respect PAs? Because I really love that you put that title on that character, PA.
No, I mean, look, I respect every role in production, and nobody works harder than PAs, and gets less for their work. So yeah, and then I will say for this whole movie, almost everything that I'm touching on, it does come up from a place of love. You know, there are some sharper, harsher jokes, but I would say a lot of that's just making fun of myself and my own experiences, to be honest. Well,
Yeah, I can dig that. And just one or two more questions. Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the acting business? When did you get started? Why you love this business?
I got started just doing shows in school and stuff, and then I went to college. I went to Rider University. They have a great fine arts program there. And when I graduated, I moved out to LA and almost immediately started taking classes at the Groundlings, which is improv theater and school. And that's where I just focused all of my time and energy. And that's where I learned so much and grew so much. And I was lucky enough to get into the Sunday Company and then into the main company, and I'm still there. Yeah. And that's where there's a bunch of other Groundlings in the movie too. And it's just the most fun. And I think what drew me to the Groundlings is the same reason I had so much fun working on this movie, is that collaboration. It's such a team effort, and it takes everyone working their hardest to make something happen. And I love being part of a team, especially when it's a team full of amazing people. That's great.
And also, what was that moment when you were a young kid or a young man, you said, hey, I want to do this for the rest of my life? Did you see a film? Was it someone who inspired you? Was it an actor or an actress that said, wow, I want to do that too?
When I was little, I wanted to be an illustrator. I wanted to be a cartoonist. And then I slowly realized I wasn't good enough at that. And I had more fun making the faces myself with my face instead of a pencil. And and my family are all storytellers, and they're really funny. And like, if you're at the dinner table, you gotta be funny, and you have to be sharp. And there was all of that happening all the time. And then, yeah, I would just watch movies, and every movie I saw, I would have a reaction to it, and I was like, "That's the coolest thing in the world." And nice. I slowly worked up the nerve to pursue it.
Nice. And Marshall, when did you decide that you wanted to be a director? And really, that's the leader of the group. When did you decide you wanted to be a director? I heard you mention you did some acting, but now you're directing. So when did you decide to do that, Marshall?
I don't remember the aha moment, what movie I saw, because I've soaked in so many movies in the 80s. But I think, my dad had this Hi8 camera when I was 9, and I just really took to it. And I would always just have my friends over, and we'd, shoot weird sketches and whatever. And I would do like VCR editing, where you're doing the start stop on the.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember that.
I kind of went from there, and then, that evolved to linear video, to, Super 8, then 16 on a Steam Deck, and then, eventually to Final Cut Pro, and, but it was always kind of doing everything myself with some sort of camcorder until, I got more tools and skills and opportunities. So.
Here you are.
And now we have this.
Yeah, you have this. You have Film Fest. And Marshall, the final question is, what do you want the audience to take from Film Fest?
I don't want to give them a specific thing to take away. I think this movie is everyone's own experience. I think we give them a lot. There's a lot of characters that represent a lot of different people and goals and, aspirations and experiences surrounding this business. So I think that if you're in the arts or in pursuit of it, I think that you can really relate to a lot of this. If you're not, you can certainly understand it more. But at the core of it, it's just a sincere road trip comedy with friends. So I'm really giving you just a big shotgun of all these different things to take away from it, but I just want you to watch it. That's all I'm asking. It's
All
free.
right.
It's on almost every streaming platform. And yeah, let me know what you took away from it. Hit me up.
Okay, I will. Well, Marshall Cook and Matt Cook, they're not brothers, everyone. I
That's
want to
right.
thank you very much for taking time with me, Al McGee at YETicket.com. And I really enjoyed Film Fest. It was a very funny movie, but you're right. I took away something from it. And I want to thank you guys for taking some time with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much, Al. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You
Thanks,
too.
Al.
This is your entertainment ticket. Latest and greatest movie review.